sunlight and CO2 from the atmosphere and some water and nutrients from the roots. And they make these simple carbohydrates that they eat. And and they overproduce by up to 40%. Well, that other 40% goes into the soil as simple carbohydrates. So it's a carbon rich, simple sugar. And these microbes come in and they're eating that stuff. And they can tell by the carbohydrates that they're getting what the host plant needs. So it's like they're eating the carbs and they say to the plant, Mr. Apple Tree, your carbohydrates are really funky today. You need some calcium. And they'll go out through the fungal network and find calcium and bring it back and feed it to the host plant. So, and grass forms those associations with fungi. Annual weeds or any annual plant do not. They aren't around long enough for that fungi to attach onto them. So that's how we outcompete weeds in a nutshell. We'll get into that more. So now we talk about our species of grass, and there's only one species in all of our lawn grasses that is native to North America. Kentucky bluegrass is originally from Asia, Northern Asia, Northern Europe. And they come from climates that don't have our temperature extremes. Like you don't see many 18 degree below days in England. And they get twice the amount of rain that we get. So if you think of it as a grass garden and you give it everything it needs mostly full sun and lots of water. So when you talk about it that way, it can be a pretty fussy plant. So we'll talk about what grass actually does need, how much light, how much water, what kind of food. And shade grasses, the ones that are sold to us as shade grasses, they actually prefer a sun-shade mix. If you put them in full shade, they'll slowly over the course of several years thin out considerably. And that thin soil or thin grass in the shade, that's where a lot of weeds will start, especially creeping Charlie. And I'm sure just about everybody here has either has creeping Charlie or has had some kind of an encounter with it. So you want 4 hours of sunlight, direct sunlight, where you can actually see the sun with your eye. And 4 hours minimum to keep that grass thick and healthy enough to keep out weeds. So, and then watering, watering is so important. You want to try to mimic nature. So less frequent watering, but more deeply. And, I had a customer a number of years ago now, and she had just bought a house in Chaska and bought it the year before. And she called me, it was the next fall, and her entire lawn died. Well, the previous owners watered it every single day for 15 minutes. And so it was very shallow rooted. Well, she didn't like the idea of watering something that much. So she decided she wasn't going to water at all. And it died on her. And so we went and we resodded, but we added a lot of organic matter in the form of a good compost. And we tilled that into her soil and then laid the sod and gave her the directions on how to properly water her new sod. And then, once a week, it needs an inch of rain. So if you don't get it from rainfall, you need to supplement that. Now that's Kentucky bluegrass. There's other species, perennial rye can tolerate a little less water. Fine fescues can tolerate a lot less water. And the more you mow, the more water you're going to have to put down. But if you water it deeply and infrequently, you'll get a very strong and deep root system. So, which is a good thing. And your soil can only hold as much water as the roots are deep. So if you have a compacted layer below ground, say 3 inches below, and the roots can't break through that, you've got a 3-inch aquifer for grass in your lawn. And that's the case many times when we come out. We'll find a compacted layer below ground. And after a few months or a year of our treatments, you oftentimes will find that you can go in 6 inches before it gets too compacted. So the microbes go in and they do their thing. They break up that soil and they tunnel through it and they eat each other and poop each other out and make the soil really thick and healthy and full of organic matter, which will humus can hold like 10 times its weight in water. It's just a natural sponge. And so your aquifer goes from like a 3-inch to 8, 10, or 12 inch, and then it will percolate through so it doesn't pool below ground, but the soil is still filled with organic matter. And that holds a lot of that water in there. Okay, fertilization. Grass is an artificial ecology. It requires some inputs. And, the U of M says 2 feedings of fertilizer is enough. And this graphic is talking about 4 or 5 feedings. And that's all well and good as long as you're only putting down 2 applications worth. You really don't need more than that. And if you have a mix of grasses, they will make better use of that than say straight Kentucky bluegrass. Kentucky bluegrass is like the big old SUV of grasses. It takes a lot of water, a lot of fertilizer, and that makes it grow fast, so it needs more mowing. And whereas a no-mow fescue lawn is just what you think. It's the fine shade grasses, and it grows and it gets like 6 to 8 inches long, and it just lays over, and it looks like guinea pig hair. It's just gorgeous. And that will take about 1/6 the fertilizer that a bluegrass lawn does. And you really don't have to water it if you aren't mowing. It just goes green and stays that way. And even if you mow it normally, it still takes about half the fertilizer and about 1/3 of the water that bluegrass does. So it's a great grass to grow. And excuse me, and you can also work in some clover, a little bit of clover in there, and that supplies nitrogen. So you just eliminated one of your fertilizer applications. So if you get a diversity of plants growing, you can really make it very low maintenance. So, anytime you have something growing, you got problems. You get pests, diseases, weeds, whatever. And these are some of the things you can do for those things. So grubs, this lawn, you can see in that picture over on the edge of the neighbor's driveway there, it's very nice and green, and the grubs didn't like going over there for some reason. So, and the grubs tunnel through and they eat the roots of the grass. And then what happened here, the reason it looks so torn up is then um, raccoons and possums and skunks would come by and just dig up the dead grass and eat the grubs. So, I mean, it looked like they had tilled their yard. And I think we restored this one for them. I don't have an after picture, but and the last few years have been horrible for grubs, the worst I've ever seen. And but there is, if anybody has grub problems, um, beneficial nematodes will control all kinds of grubs. And there's a link to them on our website if you want to buy the stuff yourself and use it. It's very simple to use. You have to, the best thing is to apply them in the evening just before sunset, because the direct light will kill them. Yeah, and this is the product. Go to Arbeco Organics and they'll sell you these, and it needs multiple applications, but so does the chemical stuff. And I tell you, it works really good. So crabgrass, every weed has certain conditions that it likes. And crabgrass likes it hot, dry, sandy, even a little bit salty. So if you get a big patch of it, you can pull it and rake it up and add compost and seed and fertilizer and then water it. And the best thing you can do to prevent crabgrass is to mow at 3 inches high or higher, and then make sure the lawn is getting an inch of water a week, and then fertilize or follow an organic program, because crabgrass needs 5 nights of the soil temperatures being above 60 degrees, I believe, 5 consecutive nights above 60 degrees, and in order to germinate. So you don't see them crabgrass until like maybe late June, early July. And you almost always will see it in a corner of the yard where like the sidewalk and the driveway are, because they heat up and they bake and dry out the soil. Boulevards are terrible if there's no trees to provide shade. But crabgrass doesn't like cool soil, it doesn't like water, and it doesn't like fertilizer. So you can treat it pretty effectively just doing that. And our friend Creeping Charlie, it's actually was imported as a ground cover for planting beds, and it covers the ground all right. And it's actually indicates a pH imbalance on either side of the scale, and then a calcium deficiency. So what we do with Creeping Charlie, there's several things you can do. You can just scrape the area and start over, or there's a product, chelated iron herbicide. It's not certified organic, but it is very low in toxicity. And if you spray the Creeping Charlie 3 times in the spring when it's blooming, about 3 weeks apart, you'll really nail it. You'll get rid of a lot of it. And then we have an organic herbicide that kills everything you spray it on. So you can go and just, if you have a big patch of Creeping Charlie, you can just spray it with that and then seed into the dead plant tissue. And that would be best done in the fall.
Quick question. Are those things in that PDF you told me you can send me?
Yeah, it would be this presentation.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have those later in
Okay.
this presentation.
So then I don't have to send my wife out on her hands and knees and have her pick it piece by
Yeah,
piece.
so you'll save your marriage and lawn. And an interesting thing about creeping Charlie, I used to say, it's a tough weed to get rid of, and you know, don't use chemicals on it because it seems to like that. um, and it's good for the bees. It's an early, you know, nectar source for bees. Well, the U of M bee lab did a study, and it is not good for bees. Um, it has very inconsistent nectar quality. So, like one bloom will be really good quality nectar, and the next nine won't be very good at all. It'll be like empty calories. So it's like McDonald's for bees, and the bees go and they just don't get much for what energy they expend. And the head of the bee lab, Dr. Marla Spivak, says that um, any flower is better than Creeping Charlie, and Creeping Charlie is better than no flower. So it's like, and then, in our lawns, there probably aren't a lot of other flowers, which creates a problem for bees too. Some bees, they only have a range of maybe a couple 100 feet. And if they can't find, boy bees or girl bees there, they get isolated. And so they their genetic diversity gets all screwed up. And if you have just a little bit of clover in your yard, it links up these groups um, and has quite the conservation effect. So, and dandelions, their job, that taproot was designed to break through compaction, and it gathers nutrients from deep in the soil and then deposits them on top in its leaves. Um, and it's a biennial, blooms every other year, and then it dies. Um, and it's, yeah, it too is not that great for bees. Its pollen has a low protein content. So the bees get that and they're eating the pollen, and it's like, again, it's like McDonald's. It's just not that good for them. So this is what we'll do is we'll either hand pull or we spray it with the organic herbicide that kills everything. Um, or we use a dethatching rake, just anything to get rid of those weeds. And then we'll deep aerate with a shovel, and that we just push a shovel in as far as we can, and we wiggle it back and forth to make a little slot. Then we pick it up and you move it over a foot and repeat that. So if you do that in the worst areas, um, and then you top dress with the compost, that compost and seed and fertilizer will flow into those little cracks, and then it the biology gets going, and they do really well in there. So you kill the weeds, and then you overseed it with a low maintenance fine fescue blend, and you'll have a very nice lawn before too long. And we do have a number of YouTube videos, just Organic Bob YouTube, or go to our website. We're going to be linking those if they aren't already. So I want people to have safe and healthy yards. And so that's why I give away this information, so to speak. And I'm passionate about this. So this is the liquid iron fertilizer. I believe or weed killer. I believe there is a link to this on our website under the products page. And the only caution I would say on this is don't apply this on a hot day because it will burn the grass. But you can put it on, you could do 3 applications in the spring, starting in late April, early May, or you can do it in the fall. And that's how we use it. Okay, now, the most organic lawn you can have many times is the one you remove. So this picture here on the left, there's several tough areas here. The foreground is a slope that faces west. So that gets just hammered with sunlight and dries it out. And water just doesn't soak in on the slope, it just runs off. So it's hard to get the grass the amount of water it needs. And then closer to the house, there's too much shade. So the grass isn't doing well there. So on the picture on the right, they've planted different plants up close to the house that will tolerate the shade. And then they planted a mix of prairie, and which it looks like these sunflowers are dominating, as they like to do. And so I'd be happier with a little more diversity in this, but it's much lower maintenance than the deep shade grass or the steep slope hot sun grass. And to maintain an acre of turf grass costs about $4,500 in a year. And to maintain an acre of prairie plants costs about $750 a year. So stopping one will help finance the other one. And and again, the most organic lawn you could have in this situation is the one you remove, because it's such a tough environment for grass. And you can reduce with natives. You can get into something complex, and this is actually kind of a high maintenance native plantings, but sure looks pretty. And what we've done, a friend of ours actually did this. He bought an old dairy farm down by Whitewater State Park, south and east of Rochester. And he had 60 acres, and I think about 35 of it were top land, and which had been pasture and hayfield. And he went in and just seeded his native plant seeds right into the hay and pasture. And then he mowed it like he normally would for a couple of years, and then he quit mowing it on the 3rd year. And the native plants had spent a year putting down roots and forming that basal set of leaves, and that's all they do. And then once you quit mowing them, they just shoot up, and they get very healthy and robust and crowd out all the grass and clover and what else was in your pasture or hayfield. So he's done that to about 40 acres, I think, and he's got another 20 in draws and bottomland where he's restoring oak savanna. So there's a lot of cheap ways you can go at this too. So this is a step-by-step procedure we use when we're going in to replace a lawn. We rent a sod cutter, and we'll cut the old lawn out and throw it in a dump trailer and take it off to a compost site and dump it. And then we fill it up with compost and bring it back and add it. And then we apply the starter fertilizer and compost tea. And the compost tea is something we make ourselves. We brew this tea and we check it several times throughout the brew and see what kind of species are present. If there's any indicators that something went anaerobic, we want to do the oxygen loving or the aerobic organisms. And we don't want to do the anaerobic because that's probably what's in the weedy soil. And then we go through and we sow the seed or we lay sod and just tell the customer how to water it and keep it watered correctly so that it grows. So this is the yard that we did that in. It's the same yard, it's just facing two different directions. But the first picture on the left, we had removed it, mechanically removed the grass, and then added compost, tilled it in, seeded it, fertilized it, and put erosion blanket on or straw. And then the customers watered it. And later that fall, they had this gorgeous 100% no-mow fescue lawn. And I believe we're still taking care of that, just a couple fertilizer applications and a few compost tea applications. So the straw mulch, I like that. It works good, and it's got an organic tackifier mixed in to make it stick. It's kind of like cornstarch. And the name of that product is Easy Straw. So it's all over. Mills Fleet Farm has it, Wagner's, most garden centers have it or something similar. Or you can use a pelleted mulch, and yeah, that's not in here.
I have a question for you, Bob.
Yeah.
One of our members wants to know, what types of fescue do you use and where do you get the seed?
The types of fescue are the ones that are called fine fescues. So if you look in your yard and if you have some shade and it's the wispy grass that grows, and it's a blend. Ours is called Cutlass, and they have names like No-Mo or Molo. We can sell all these products for do-it-yourselfers, the fertilizer, the compost, and the grass seed. But otherwise, most garden centers have these No-Mo fescue mixes. And yeah, and you want to put it down about 6 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Now in this picture, it was almost solid creeping Charlie in this yard and in the bed. So we went in and scraped everything out and then hauled in compost and tilled it and graded it, put the fertilizer down, and then we sodded this lawn. They had little kids and a puppy. They didn't want any mud being tracked in their yard, but it looked gorgeous when we're done. A lot better than creeping Charlie. And this is what we do when the lawn's okay, but it's just kind of thin. It's a few weeds, but basically it's okay. It just needs a little help. So we'll deep aerate either by core aerating, where you rent the machine and it pulls those plugs out. And then in the weedy areas, we'll do that deep aerating by hand. Or you can just, if your lawn's small, you can deep aerate the whole thing, but top dress with compost, starter fertilizer, grass seed, and compost tea. And the best time to do it is August through mid-September. And the next best time is April through mid-May. But I tell you, if you're doing anything with seed, um, you're much better off doing it in the fall. Because especially if it's a brand new lawn from seed, because it seeding done in the spring just turns weedy if it's bare soil, you'll just get a whole bunch of weeds because the grass starts off good and then it starts to die off the hotter it gets.
I have another question for you, Bob.
Yeah.
Diane would like to know, what formulation do you use for your compost tea, and would she be able to make it using her compost tumbler?
Tumblers usually do not produce the kind of compost that you want in your tea. Their compost tumblers they usually produce something anaerobic, believe it or not. We don't have a site where we can compost, so we get our compost shipped in from Northern California and Alaska, and it's really good. It has the microbial signature that we've found in soils, undisturbed soils here in Minnesota. It's like things that weren't farmed or plowed or anything. It's, natural soil. Um, a good one, if you go to, what's it called? KISS, KIS Brewers, they sell the compost in little kits, and they have a brewer for, I don't know, it's like $150. And you can brew your own compost tea and put it down. Or you can just buy high quality compost and top dress with that. And worm compost is probably one of the better ones. And if it's good, you don't need very much, just salt and pepper it on your yard. And we've got a YouTube video where it shows how we apply the compost. We'll just scoop it up with a snow shovel out of the wheelbarrow, and then we walk around and flick it off the end of the shovel. And I mean, when you're done, it looks like you haven't done anything, but and a 1/16 of an inch of quality compost is better than 3 inches of cheap junk compost. So, and I can't stress that enough. Um, most commercial composts that you get are not that good. But some are better than others. Cosmo, and that COWSMO compost, that's a good one. Mississippi Topsoils is a good bagged compost. Sue's, HSU', that's a good one. And I think I have them in a slide here later. There's the thing about what kind of grass seed. Oh. Yeah, and this is what the top dressing will look like. And that's a heavy top dressing. That's probably 600 pounds per 1,000 square feet. It's a little more than you need, but it doesn't hurt anything. And yeah, and there's the good names of the compost. And then this is the monthly program. So in April, we like to put down some seed because it fills in the bare spots where seeds and especially crabgrass would tend to germinate. And then a half application of fertilizer and 150 pounds of quality compost per 1,000 square feet. And May and June, you just hand weed and lightly seed those empty spots. And July, it's just water. The grass doesn't like to be messed with when it's that hot. And August, you pretty much repeat what you did in April, and then September, you do a full application of fertilizer, and that there's always a delay with organic fertilizers. What you put down now is what the lawn will eat in 3 to 6 months. Um, so a September application is what the lawn will eat next April. And then in October, just water until you get a hard freeze because it really likes that water. So a grass garden, if you're very intentional about your grass, instead of viewing it as the default, this is what you would do. So water an inch a week. If you got 2 inches of rain last week, you don't need to water this week. If you got a half inch last week, give it a half inch this week. And then,
Question for you, Bob.
yeah,
Do you aerate yearly?
you don't have to. We do it as a part of a renovation. If there's compaction present, and you don't need it annually in an organic program because the microbes, they do a far better job of aerating than anything we can do with a machine. And by doing it every year, it's a 350-pound machine that's driving tines in your soil, and it will compact that soil over time. The only reason we do it, it's the best way to add organic matter and air and allow fertilizer and water into the soil, with the hope that the microbes that are in the compost and compost tea, they will then grow out into the soil and take over the job of aerating.
So if you do aerate your lawn, would you recommend filling the holes that the plugs have left behind with compost and seeding it, heavy seeding?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
if you do that, like maybe the first couple of years in the fall, you shouldn't have to overseed again, or excuse me, top dress. I'm getting ahead of myself. You shouldn't have to aerate again.
Okay.
And it's funny because many lawns will have a compacted layer about 3 to 4 inches below ground. And that's years of, mowers riding on them and just foot traffic, but also the aerators, that people have used. They actually, and many things in a chemical or conventional program, they end up causing the very problems that they're supposed to fix. Like herbicides will kill off all the microbes that you need to prevent weeds from growing. So herbicides will actually cause weeds, and aeration causes compaction. I mean, it's just the things that we've done to our lawns is just kind of trying to force them to go a certain way, and this is a little gentler than that. It's like coaxing them and working with the natural desires of the plant. It wants to have a deep root system, wants to have a longer leaf. And so you get one, you get the other. That's why mowing height is so important. If you get below 3 inches, you're asking for weeds because the plant is threatened. It's putting more growth into the leaf than it is into the roots. So what to expect if you follow this program? If you're able to and willing to water an inch a week, Year one, the grass is thicker, greener, and healthier, and some of the weeds will be healthier too. Um, Year two, you'll have fewer weeds. It'll be a subtle thing. If you walk around the yard and it's like, huh, I used to have a big patch of dandelions here and it seems smaller. Or, I had crabgrass up here by the sidewalk, but that I don't see as much this year. Um, and then in year three, you can start to back off on watering and fertilizing, top dressing, and overseeding because you get that flywheel going of the biology in the soil. There's fungi that produce organic acids and they'll dissolve solid rock matter like sand or silt particles, and they those acids, the organic acids, will dissolve that rock material and release all kinds of minerals for whatever's growing there. That's why organic food is has a greater nutritional density than conventional food. Is because of that microbial action.
So do you, I heard you say aerating in the fall. So you recommend aerating your lawn in the fall? How late into the fall can you go to do that?
Um, I would do it into October. Ideally what I like to do is I aerate and then I'll put down the compost, as a top dressing, and then seed and fertilizer. And um, the seed is the limiting factor in all of those. So you need to stop doing the seed about mid-September. If you wait um, until late October, you can do them all, and the seed will just lay dormant until the spring. And again, the fertilizer, it's organic, it's different than chemical. So if the soil is kind of dormant, um, you know, 40 degrees or so, then the plants won't be taking in any nutrients, but those nutrients will go into the soil and stay there till the following spring. But the best thing would be in September. So this lawn, it's quite a large property. It's about an acre and a quarter of grass, and it's up by Rogers. And we had to look to find this stupid dandelion. Um, and this couple, they've been doing it themselves. We would put down the compost tea a couple times a year and just sell them the fertilizer and the compost and the seed, and they would do all that themselves. And it's a young couple with two little kids, and both husband and wife are in wheelchairs. So if they can do a lawn like this, I think the rest of us should be able to. And it looks phenomenal. I mean, it's just a great looking lawn. And the people are just an inspiration to me. And then we have these alternative lawns, the no-mow fescue blends that I talked about, or you can have mini or micro clover lawns, or bee lawns and Dutch white clover or native plantings. In bee lawns, it's something that, this is a no-mow fescue lawn, what it looks like. And it's, it's got a few leaves in there, but otherwise it looks pretty good. And it sure looks good. You go out there, and she says, now instead of mowing, I go out there and I just walk on it. It's so soft. It's like a carpet. And then I have coffee on my patio during the times that I would normally be mowing. So that gets my attention. I would love that. And so it's all depends on whether you like that look or not. But this is a bee lawn. This is the front yard of that property that we just looked at. Now, bee lawn was developed by the U of M Bee Lab, and it's a blend of the fine fescues with creeping thyme, self-heal, and Dutch white clover in it. And those need to be dormant seeded like in late October, early November. And it turned out very robust on this one. In fact, the flowers kind of crowded out the grass to a bit. But the good thing is with those 3 flowering plants, something's in bloom most of the season. And it helps a wide variety of bees. I've learned more about bees the last couple of years than I knew there was to learn. You got these little tiny bees that don't have a very big range, just a few hundred feet. So it connects pockets of those if several neighbors have these. And then the Dutch white clover actually puts in enough nitrogen so you can reduce your fertilizer by about 35%. And there's big bumblebees, and the clover flower can hold them up. And there's bees with short tongues and bees with long tongues, and these plants will handle a wide variety of bees, which is why they selected them. So we put in a lot of these the past few years.
Would you have to remove your existing lawn to be able to seed it for this bee lawn? Or can you just seed the bee lawn right over the top of your existing grasses?
You can seed it right into your existing lawn. And it's best to do that as a dormant seed. And it will take you a couple years before you get something that will look good. You can scrape it clean and do this, or this one we actually used a process called sheet composting. And we went in and we sprayed compost tea over the existing grass. And then, we sprayed molasses, and then we put a very thin layer of compost on it, 2 layers of corrugated cardboard, and then 1.5 inches of soil on top of that. And then we seeded this and put it under a blanket. And we did that all like in early November. And the next spring, this was the following spring. So it did very well. So that's one method. But you can also spray it with the organic herbicide that we have that will kill your existing grass, and then you just seed into that. So there's a number of different ways. So this is some product resources. Fertilizer, when you're look for organic certification. Organic seed is expensive and very hard to find. So I wouldn't waste time on that. And compost, you want to look for organic certification, or use those 3 brands I recommended. And herbicide, that chelated iron is about the best thing you'll get. And then the compost tea machine, you can get good ones for $150 online, and the KISS brewer, KIS, is probably the best one I've seen. And then compost, just checking a compost, see if it's any good. And we want to grow fungi, and you would think that mushroom compost would be like, oh, this would be great, it has it in there already. But they pasteurize those before they put them in the bag. And so it's dead. You're just putting down carbon, basically. And the Cosmo compost from the Landscape and Concrete Center is a really good bulk compost you can get. And again, it's kind of expensive, but you don't need as much when you're doing the quality. And these are some other books and organizations. Blue Thumb has a lot for rain gardens and alternative turf resources. And the Organic Lawn Care Manual by Paul Tukey is the best recent book I've seen for organic lawn care. So, and this is my daughter Isabel a number of years ago with her cat Curiosity and her dog Morgan. And I asked Isabel, I said, do you like that we do organic lawn care? She, Dad, I love it. And I said, well, why? You know, I was really surprised that she even knew, let alone cared. And I said, well, why do you care so much, Isabel? And she goes, I can play with Morgan, the dog, in the yard, and Morgan won't get sick. And I said, well, what about Curiosity, the cat? And she goes, cats don't care, Dad. So, you know, my daughter was safe playing in our yard, and it's a far cry from doing field work with all the chemicals when I was a kid, where it was literally killing people that I cared about. So we've discovered a lot, and I think we're going to discover a lot more. So any other questions? That's the end of my presentation.
Bob does have a PDF that has all this information, the different organic compost and stuff. So if anybody needs that, just let me know and I can pass that along to anybody. Let's see, Jan had a question. Favorite fertilizers besides compost or just compost?
We get our fertilizer custom blended, and I like it. And we can sell that and deliver that. But other good composts, Ringer Restore is a good one. It's hard to find one that's phosphorus free, which we need in the metro. Sustain, Sustane.
Excellent.
That's a good one if you can find it. Um,
I use that to grow my giant pumpkins.
Is it? Yeah, it's
awesome.
Good stuff.
It's turkey poop.
Yep. And I'll have one I'll warn you against is Milorganite. It's composted human sewage from the city of Milwaukee, and they blend it with synthetics because otherwise it would have too many heavy metals in it. So it's contaminated, as you would imagine human sewage is. And yeah, those heavy metals will build up over time in the soil. So it's just, I really don't want any heavy metals in my yard. So I always warn people about that one. And they sell it as organic, but it's not, it's a biosolid. And there's a vast difference. It's like orange juice and orange drink.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
A couple of good stores, Mother Earth Gardens in South Minneapolis and Northeast Minneapolis. They have a number of good products, and Eggplant in St. Paul, they have quite a few good products too. And just tell them Organic Bob sent you.
Okay. What depth is best for aeration?
Um, many times I'll find the compaction layer. It could be, it'll be about 4 inches down. So if you can break through that layer, but sometimes it's 8 or 9 inches down too. And um, anything that's that far down, I don't worry about as much. I'm only, I'm mainly concerned about the top 4 inches.
Okay.
So, and core aerators go down about 3. So if you have a weedy area, you can go through with a shovel and just do it by hand. And we've got a video on the website, I believe, or on the YouTube channel that shows how we do that. Um, but as a rule of thumb, the deeper you go, the better. And you don't have to do it as often as you do with the core. Every square foot or square 18 inches is will be adequate.
Okay. Um, can we share the PDF on our website? We have our own website, mwgs.org.
Yeah,
Okay. Question. Our front lawn is lumpy. What is the best way to level it out?
that's a tough one because what has happened, lawns age, but if there's anaerobic soil conditions, that means there's more bacteria. Now, if you have lots of bacteria, you're going to get lots of earthworms because that's what they eat. And so um, the best thing after a couple years of following an organic program, you top dress and aerate and seed and fertilize and compost tea, it will slowly smooth that out. And the lawn, the grass getting thicker will make that less noticeable too. But I've tried all kinds of stuff. I've tried a dethatching machine. I've tried rollers. I've tried adding soil. But I've found the thing that really works the best is 2 or 3 years of following our organic program because it brings um, it reduces the number of bacteria, then allows the soil to percolate, and the compost will help fill in some of the low areas, and then those little humps will just degrade.
Well, we got somebody who wants to throw you a curveball. Is there any way of controlling quackgrass? They live on the Anoka sand plain, and quackgrass is rampant.
Yeah. Yeah, and that one is a tough one because it's so closely related to grass that, if you had a herbicide that would kill quackgrass, it would kill grass too. Excuse me. In a chemical program, they tell you to round up the whole thing and start over. Um, and in probably comparable would be to use the uh, the organic herbicide we have, and you can spot treat the quack grass. Or what I've been playing with the past couple years with this organic herbicide and having some luck with it, is you mow and then 2 days later the quack grass is sticking up that much higher than the regular grass. So then you can go and wipe on or paint on this um, organic herbicide, and it will kill just the quack grass to the roots. And but it takes a few applications, and I've never had enough time to do all the applications. So you can either wipe out the whole thing with this spray, or you can try to selectively do it either by spot treating or wiping, and then seed in something else, because the quackgrass, it spreads by that thick fleshy rhizome, and just one little chunk of that and you'll have it again.
Does organic care of lawns discourage voles, moles, and other critters from tunneling through the lawn, or does it encourage them?
What was the question again?
Does organic lawn care discourage voles, moles, and other critters from tunneling through the lawn, or will it encourage them to tunnel?
Um, it's a blend of the two. I mean, many times moles, the ones that go underground, are there after grubs. So the organic grub control, um, you could safely do that as a preventative, and as a direct treatment if you know you have grubs. So that will reduce the number of moles, because you're getting rid of the
Food source.
food source. And voles, they're a tough one, because they'll come out from like a mulch pile or wood pile under the snow in the winter. Like right now, they're out there. Well, it might even be too cold for them. They're in their tunnels, going and doing their thing. They chew off the roots of the grass from above the ground, and they leave all those trails. And then you go out in the spring when the snow thaws, and you have all these patches. Um, but you can just a little compost and seed, and a few weeks you won't be able to see that damage. Um, but there are um, repellents you can put down in the fall to keep them away from your property, chase them over to your neighbors. And plant skid is a good one, and it's PLANTSKYYD or YDD. It's spelled kind of weird, but you just mix that up with water and spray it on the areas where the voles have been in the past. And um, the couple in wheelchairs, they had a lot of vole damage one year, and he applied that stuff in the spring and fall, and they went into his neighbor's yard. So, and they weren't enticed to come back.
I have a question. I noticed you differentiate between aerating and the plug aerating. Is there a different way to aerate your lawn other than a plugger?
Yeah, the manual aerating with a shovel, we just you know push a shovel in as far as you can into the soil,
Okay.
and then rock it back and forth, and then you make a little slot about that big, and you take it out and move it over a foot and do it, and just once every square foot, and then put compost down on top, and that compost goes down into that slot, and it releases the soil microbes right where you need them.
Okay.
And you can feel it too when you hit a compacted layer, in that top few inches, you'll break through that.
Could you do the same thing, say, like with a hay fork?
Yeah, the forks don't work as good.
Okay.
You poke holes and then they fill in kind of quickly, where this divot really, the it's a two-part process, and the compost is an important part of that.
Okay.
And sharpen your shovel and wear hard-soled shoes.
You mean my Crocs ain't gonna do it?
Yeah, I've got arthritis in my left foot from it. I wish I'd never done it.
All right. Well, anybody have any more questions for Bob for today? Again, Bob will send me that PDF. We'll be able to post it online to our webpage, and I also will have it available. Anybody wants to shoot me an email, and I can send it directly to you. So, all right.
Great.
Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate all your time today.
Yeah, you bet. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Thank you, Bob. You have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay. that sounds like a lot of work I got going this spring. Couple things. We've been looking for some new coordinators. Um, we had Brenda Bergson has agreed to stay on as our food coordinator for when we eventually get back to meeting in person at the uh, Heritage Room, which might not be for some time. As of right now, they have yet to okay opening up that room. Um, Pond tour. Um, I'm working with Paula Danielson this year. Um, Gary Danielson has agreed to take over being the coordinator for the pond tour. Um, However, he'd like to wait until next year. He still is a little hesitant to take over the pond tour with COVID and not having the herd um, immunity set up just yet. Um, Somewhere on here, I can unmute everybody. Where did that go to? Allow participants to unmute themselves. Okay, so you can go ahead and be able to unmute yourselves if you have any questions for me. Um, we are also Star Platte. Everybody knows had an opportunity to move back home and be closer to her families, and she has done that. So we're looking for a new logo merchandising coordinator, but Mary Erickson has stepped up and has agreed to do that for us. So Mary is working with our Sheila is her name, and we're going to be rolling out some new products to the merchandise line, and we're going to shrink it down. Instead of having that huge catalog, we're going to shrink it down to a dozen so items that we're going to offer. So I think we're looking at maybe getting some of these, what do you call those things? Totes uh, for book bag. I call it a book bag, but they're totes. They're whatever a tote looks like. So she's looking at getting our logo put on there. And I know some of the board members went, "Ooh, we like that." So as soon as that's up and running, we will get that out to everybody, and so they'll be able to see what kind of items we're offering. Um, we are still looking for somebody willing to step up and be the spring and fall picnic coordinators. Um, I have the grill that Star used to use, storing in my garage. But we are looking for somebody to be the coordinator, setting up. I know Marty normally takes care of reserving the pavilion at Roseville. So basically, the coordinator all there really responsible is setting up, letting people know that we need potluck and taking care of the soda water and that type of stuff. So we are looking for somebody that'll step up and do that. Um, our board meetings, everybody, the board meetings are open to the general membership. Our next board meeting is Sunday, March 7th. We meet from 1:30 to 3:30. They're all by Zoom. April 5th and May 3rd are also the following 2 months, and those are going to be on Monday evenings from 7 to 9. But if anybody's interested in sitting in on our board meetings and listening, shoot me an email and I will send you the Zoom invite. Our spring sale. We are having a spring sale. Yes, Jan, we will have it come hell or high water. We're going to figure that out how we're going to do it, but we're going to have one. Um, where it's going to be, I have talked with the friends, and they're cutting back because they're unsure of what their hours, or not their hours, but how many people they're going to be allowed to come through their gates to purchase plants, and they're afraid it's still only going to be 100 people per hour. So they have asked not to partner with us this year. So I have sent in a event request form to the Minnesota State Fairgrounds, and I'm requesting the south half of that lot where where the Friends used to have their vendors all set up, basically like the food vendors and the guy that was selling the whirly birds. They're not holding that vendor fair, so that lot is going to be open. So we're looking at using that south half of that lot. Our problem is getting somebody from the Minnesota State Fair to respond to phone calls, emails, whatever. Slowly but surely, we will get there. We will have a sale. We might not be at the state fairgrounds. I don't know. But I'm working hard on making sure that happens. If it does happen, we do get that spot. We will literally be across the street from the parking lot that they use to set up the midway. And the midway is where the Friends will be setting up this year because they will not be allowed inside the grandstand. So they're going to be outside where the midway is, and we will literally be right across the street from them if we're allowed to have that spot. If anybody's interested in seeing what the spot looks like, shoot me an email. I will send you the Google Maps URL that you can type into your computer and it brings up the picture of what the spot we're looking for. Um, our volunteer list requests have been put together, and myself and Jan and Jim Kirchner worked on that. And I believe we have sent it to Jerry, and Jerry has it. And I'm assuming the next couple, 3 days, the volunteer email website will be up and running where you will be able to log in and volunteer for several days and several different spots. Um, we will have a planting, separation planting, whatever, at my house on Saturday, May 1st. That's for all the member donated items that we're hoping people will be able to get out of their ponds by then. They'll bring them to my house and we'll have to get them bagged up and cleaned up and potted and whatever. And that's going to be from 10 to 6. So we're going to have two crews, a crew from 10 to 2 and then another crew from 2 to 6. And that's going to be at my house. And I will have all the plants at my location. Then Tuesday, um, May 4th, um, I'm going to need
Need
about
a
four.
lot of people all day long.
Yes, we're going to need about
Basically.
4 volunteers to come to my house and be there by 9 a.m. to help me load up the um, 22 or 24-foot U-Haul truck that we are renting with all the tubs and tables and miscellaneous other tents and all that good stuff. Load them on the trailer. And then we're going to go over to the state fair site. And then from about 10 a.m. till 6 p.m., we need a good 20 volunteers to be out at the state fair site, setting up tables, tents, um, working on, we're going to set up a rope area. Hopefully we have that area. We're going to rope it off so it's a defined space for us. So we need a lot of people to help set that up. We're also going to be setting up some plants. We should have the plants by then because Alan has graciously agreed to help me on Monday, the 3rd, go pick up plants from the airport when they come in from Florida Aquatics. And also, we're going to also go up to Minnesota Waterscapes and pick up our plants on Monday, May 3rd also. See, we'll have all the plants there that we need to pick up. We do have some vendor Glacial Ridge, but those won't come in till Thursday, Jan? Wednesday.
Uh, no, I have to talk to him now that we know what our hours are, but
Okay.
they'll either come late Tuesday or early Wednesday.
So, so we will have plants that need to be dipped, and we need bagging of the water lilies and all that good stuff. So we need a lot of volunteers on Tuesday. Whatever we don't get done on Tuesday, Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we need 10, 12 volunteers for there to finish up what we didn't get finished on Tuesday, getting the plants up on the tables, getting the labels set up on the tables and all that good stuff. So when, finishing the setup. And then anybody who volunteers to help with the spring sale between May 1st and May 9th. Um, from 2 to 8 p.m. on May 5th, will be allowed to shop. And it's also going to be for the volunteers of the Friends School also. They will be allowed to come in to shop from 2 to 8 on Wednesday, May 5th.
Right, and that's a day earlier than usual. So,
Yes.
and Friends, what they're doing is, in order to accommodate people, they're assuming that they have to have a fewer people per hour. So they've expanded their days and hours, and we will expand accordingly. So we're I haven't really added up the extra hours, but it's probably at least 16 more hours we're going to be selling stuff than we did last year. So that's why we're saying, if anybody can take off during that week before Mother's Day, particularly the weekdays of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we sure could use your help.
Please look at your emails in the next 2 or 3 days, and Jerry will get in that volunteer sign up sheet online, and that's how you will sign up. If you have any questions on how to do it, you can contact Jim Kirchner. He will be able to walk you through getting it signed up.
I'll send it out tomorrow.
Okay, it's going out tomorrow. I don't know, Jerry, are you familiar on how things work on that sign up sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can't get a hold of Jim Kirchner, maybe give Jerry a call and maybe she can help you also.
Right.
Thursday will be the start of our sales. We will be starting at 9 a.m. and going till 8 p.m. But we're going to want our volunteers there at 8:30 so we can kind of tell you what we need you to do and get you all set up. So we have a group of 16 volunteers that are needed from 8:30 until 2:30 on Thursday, May 6th. And then we'll have a second group come in from 2 to 8, another group of 16. So then we'll do that again on Friday, same hours, 8:30 to 2:30, a group of 16, and another group from 2 to 8. And then Saturday, guess what? We get to sleep in, folks. Saturday, we need a group of 16 starting at 9:30 in the morning, going till 1:30. And then we'll have another group of 16 starting at 1 o'clock, and it'll go till 6. And then Sunday, the fun day. We will be selling plants from 10 until 2. So we will need a group of about 14 people from 9:30 in the morning till 2 o'clock. And then starting 1:30ish, I need everybody and their brother to please show up, because then it's when we start tearing it down. And I'm asking for a minimum of 25 people to help us tear that down. Last year I had about 18 of us there, and we got it done in about 2.5 hours. And after being there for 5 days, I was sure glad to get out of there. The other thing we are looking for is between between Sunday and the spring picnic, which is the following weekend, usually at Roseville. But unfortunately, at this point, we don't know if we will have a spring picnic, because the earliest Roseville is going to allow us to reserve that site is April. So we're hoping to have a spring picnic. So we need somebody to volunteer to babysit the 1 or 2 plants that we don't fire sale on Sunday that are left over. Keep laughing, Jan. There will be a fire sale on Sunday. We would, I mean, let's face it, I'm a dreamer, but I would love to sell out all the plants so we don't have to have anybody babysit. But worst case scenario, we need somebody to volunteer to babysit the plants at their home between Sunday, the 9th of May, until the spring picnic, which is the following weekend, I believe.
Right, and so Steve, that babysitting just requires them to have a place, and if they need water, water them. But will we
Yes.
help provide transportation from their house back to the picnic?
Yeah, well, what we'll do is I will work on that. I will work on getting, I have a trailer. I have a couple good friends who showed up early to the meeting, Alan, but we won't name names, that have pickup trucks. And I know uh, Gino and Donna also are very helpful in that aspect. So I will
We have a
arrange.
truck now too, Steve.
There we go. We got Vicky. So I have enough people that I can get the plants from the babysitters to the picnic. At that point, then
yeah,
it becomes the pond sale people's issue. So
right. So really,
shoot, wait
as
a
a
minute, that's
babysitter,
me.
you don't have to worry about moving the plants.
I
Just
keep
taking
laughing,
care.
Marla. Marla's laughing at me. I just realized I'm working on the ponds tour. So I guess what? I'm gonna have to find somebody to babysit them to the pond tour. Oh God. Okay, this is so much fun. Anyways, everything's going good. We're working. Paula Danielson agreed to help me for 1 year for this year's pond tour because, like I said, Gary is also going to take over the pond tour next year. The board made a decision not to have a bus tour um, for the volunteers, just simply because crowding 40, 50 people on a bus in the midst of a COVID pandemic didn't make much sense to us. So even with face mask and everything else, we just decided not to do that. But we will have a pond tour. How many people we'll have on the tour, I don't know yet. Um, I will be getting a hold of Paula in the next week or two, and we'll getting that finalized.
Can you share the area, Steve, for people?
Yes, the area we're looking at is north of 94, the Minneapolis 94, between 35E and the Mississippi River. I guess it's 694, 94. That is the from 694, 494, whatever it is over there, between 35E and the Mississippi River north. We're looking at Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, Anoka, Coon Rapids, Blaine,
Ham Lake,
Ham Lake,
East Bethel.
East Bethel. We'll go up Zimmerman. What are some other towns up that way? But that's the area. If everybody looks at a map, if you look at where 94 and 684 are kind of together there, between 35E and the Mississippi River, that area north is what we're looking at. And I believe I sat down and I put together on Google. Pauline showed me how to go into Google Maps. So the Google Maps for MWGS 2020 at Gmail, I built every single person that is a member of the Water Garden Society into Google Maps. So I was able to go into that area and there's pinpoints of everybody who's in that area. I made a list of all those people and I've sent that to Pauline and she's going to be getting a hold of those people to see if anybody would be willing to be on the pond tour. Sorry, I am talking a little softly because my son fell asleep and I like him sleeping. So we do plan on, 2021 is going to be our 20th year of adopting the garden out at the Minnesota State Fair site. So the board, me pushing it, but the board has agreed to allow about $3,000. We want to make some upgrades to the State Fair site. Other than weeding and add a few plants here and there, nothing's really been done to that site in a long time. We are in negotiations with the Minnesota State Fair to have them put in a new fencing for us. And rather than that cedar post thing that we have today, railing, we're looking at putting it's a fine black tiny mesh. It's the tiny mesh, and it'd be metal. It's rubber coated, plastic coated, whatever you call it, but it has like a 50-year warranty on it type of thing. So we're looking at trying to convince the State Fair to put that type of fencing in. They would pick up the cost of putting that fencing in. We're looking at putting in some different posts along with, rather than the rope, we're looking at using rubber coated steel cabling for the roping area that we rope off the walkways out at the State Fair site. So we're looking at doing that. That will be done this year, whether they do the fence or not. We're also looking at up where that one Angelica plant is that everybody goes to because it's just loads of bees. If you go down on the end, it just kind of ends at a point. We're looking at opening that up, put another um, bridge across that second stream, and then opening up the walkways to go down to where the old hibiscus is, and then go up along that fence line along the evergreen up to the top where Lady Liberty is standing. So we're looking at opening up a couple walkways to make it a little more accessible. And then we're going to put a third gate down where the old hibiscus used to be, down in that corner on the side of where the skyride is, where the people get on the skyride. I know I'm jumping around. Does anybody have any other questions about this spring sale? Please sign up, sign your friends up, even if they don't know about it. And yes, Alan does know I signed him up for the fourth cherry. He did agree to that. I just didn't sign him up all on my own. That was in my email I sent you. I mean, this sale is for our members. It provides us operating costs. So, I mean, if we get everybody to volunteer, we will make this successful. We can sell out all the plants. We won't need a babysitter. So,
And
any
we're selling,
questions? Pardon?
and we're selling fish.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Marty's not on here today. That's unusual. We will be selling fish. Yes, we will be selling fish. However, we do not sell fish at the spring picnic anymore. That's the logistics of that got to be horrendous. So we decided to stop that. So the only opportunity is either driving over to Marty's house or at the spring sale. Any questions on the pond tour? Any questions on the State Fair site? And I'm pretty sure I said everybody could unmute yourself. So if you have a question or a comment or anything, please feel free. I want to do, again, thank you, Sarah, for volunteering to do the carnivorous plants, but due to the restrictions on how they need to be raised, we need probably a sunnier location than what you had. So, but thank you for offering. That was extremely generous of you. I only have one other thing for people who know Bruce Schnabel. I'm not sure if anybody is aware, but Bruce had a serious heart attack back in November. Bruce is still in the hospital, but apparently he is slowly getting better. So with that,
I want to
anybody
know who those really tan people are that are sitting on the couch in one of the
No,
cells.
we're not asking those. We know who those are, and she has been sitting by the poolside way too long, right, Anne? Bob your head yes and up and down, Anne. We know you've been sitting. Dick's probably been on a golf course. Anne's been sitting by the pool.
Right.
Oh, look at there.
Woke him up.
Oh, we woke him up.
Talk
Oh,
about
that's
the
like,
golf course. It's not really a golf course as we know it. It's really hard, and the fairways are about as high as the greens.
so it's basically poured concrete, painted green.
Yeah, you can putt from 50 yards out.
Wow. Anybody have? Next month we have. What do I do with my book? Next month we have from Abe Lincoln to Mastodons, the Botanical Tales from Minnesota. Dr. Stephen Sopp. He is the professor of biology at the College of St. Benedict in St. John's University. And my niece happened to have him, and she said he is a hoot. So be prepared for a fun, interesting talk next in March. Anybody have any
And
questions for
if
me?
anybody has any information they want in this waterlog. I'm starting to get some stuff, but please have it to me by Wednesday.
And she's talking to me because I'm always late with my president's pad.
I did enjoy the last one. I know more about cattails than I did in the
Oh, he did
previous
join in.
years of my life.
Well, thank you. I had attended a conference on invasive species of the upper Midwest. It was 5 solid days, and everybody's talk was only 20 minutes. So
Oh,
you can imagine how many different topics were covered over the 5 days. And I just found fascinating what they were doing up in Voyager National Park, and just watching this 6-acre mass of something floating around for a year before they could finally tether it somewhere to get rid of it was just amazing. So he actually wrote that just for us. So it was very nice that I told him I was willing to do it after watching his talk, but he said that he would do it, and so I know it was really a long article, but I just thought it was interesting, and I didn't cut it at all.
Okay, so I gotta get her the January.
Yep. Treasurer's report.
January's report, yeah.
Yep. January's.
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
Somebody said Steve. Who said Steve? I must be hearing things. Sorry. Well, folks, that's all I got. I did forget to start the recording when I turned it over to Bob, so it's going to be, I don't know,
Little shorter.
it's going to be a little shorter. Yeah. I don't know. I've not been
You
able
got
to.
most of it. It's okay, Steve.
Oh yeah, I got 3/4 of it. Sorry, but as most people know, my mind's been on other things this week, so
I was
Yep.
trying to yell it to you, but you didn't hear me.
sorry. I probably had you muted. That's why. Got to
Yeah.
chat. Hit that chat button.
we just
Hit
missed
that
the
chat
first
button.
couple of minutes.
Just glad to have your son home and on the
Yes.
recuperation side.
It
Yes.
is. It is. I'm still flabbergasted that 5 days after opening his chest up, they sent him home, but
Yeah.
they must know better than me. However, he did cause him a little conscious problem. A normal chest spreader couldn't get wide enough. They had to jerry rig 2 chest spreaders together to get his chest open enough so they could get in it, because his chest, well, you see my chest, right? His chest is probably twice the size of mine.
Wow.
He's a big boy, you know.
Big heart. You have a big heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does have a big heart. Yes, he does. Well, folks,
Grow
I'm gonna let you
big
go.
pumpkins and big kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's only 6'4", 425.
Wow.
Big
Yeah.
guy.
I think he's trying to catch up to my pumpkin. That was 6'30", 6'28", something like that.
I
So.
hope he's got his heart pillow.
Yes, he does have a heart pillow. As a matter of fact, he's holding it as we speak, sleeping. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get off here, and I'm going to go visit with my daughter-in-law, and hopefully he'll wake up in the next couple hours, and I'll visit with him for a little bit before I go home. Thank you, everybody, for your well wishes, and
Yeah.
y'all be safe. And other than Dick and Ann, everybody stay warm.
Where's Jan at?
Jan is in Arizona. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know what
she's
she's
kinda
complaining.
warm,
Oh,
too.
boy, she left out of here fast.
Yeah, she's gone.
Yeah, she's in Arizona until I believe
Yeah.
first part of May also. So,
Okay.
Ann, are you going to be home in time for the spring sale?
I'm gonna ask Steve.
Planning on coming home early April, no airfare yet, but
Oh, okay. What are you going to ask me, Vicki?
I was gonna ask you, what day do you want me to take as my volunteer day from work? I have 8 hours that I can use for the plant sale.
Oh,
The bank will pay me to work at the plant sale.
Woohoo.
Tuesday?
Tuesday be better?
Yeah, Tuesday
Okay.
would be.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
because
probably will
that's-
take a sick day for one of the days too, maybe the first day that we're open, so for the
Right.
cash register and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put it out tomorrow and then you can sign up right away.
Okay.
The other thing, well, you could just put her down on Tuesday before you send it out.
Yep, you could.
Tuesday, what day set?
Oh, I shouldn't say that just yet. I have to get it approved by the bank first.
Yeah, you better get that.
Okay, you better do that first.
Yeah.
we need enough volunteers on Tuesday. She should be able to. And if
Yeah.
more people volunteer, that's great.
Well, I told them not to add lines, so, but they'll have to contact me and then I'll add it.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We are going to do the cash register from Metro. So I'll get that all set up.
Okay,
And I'll get it up, set up for, we'll probably I'll pick it up Wednesday morning, and we'll have it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because it
Okay.
comes with its own Wi-Fi, so it'll be so much
Good.
easier than the Squarespace.
It just works out better.
Yep, much better. Well, if they're going to pay you to work hard over at the state fair, come on Tuesday. That'd be a good day. That doesn't excuse you from Saturday, Sunday, or Friday night after work.
yeah, well, see, that's the whole thing. I'll probably swing by every day after work,
Sure. All right, folks. No more
Okay.
questions. I'm going to let everybody
No.
go. Y'all have a great day.
Yep,
Happy
bye.
Valentine's to everybody. Happy Valentine's
Yep.
Day.
Lasagna's being made.
There you go. I think Domino's working for me tonight.
Bye.
Bye now.